The first time my husband accused me of cheating, he was buttoning a shirt that smelled like another woman's perfume. "You've been smiling at your phone a lot lately," he said casually while fixing his cufflinks in the mirror. I looked up slowly. "My cousin sent me a video." He muttered. "Convenient." That was how he worked. He disappeared every night, but somehow I was always the suspect. At first, I defended myself. Then I explained myself. Eventually, I just stayed quiet, because every conversation felt like a trap. If I dressed nicely, I was trying too hard. If I stayed home, I was acting guilty. If I laughed too loudly around his friends, he'd punish me with silence for days. Meanwhile, his own behavior kept getting worse. Late-night business dinners, weekend meetings, phone calls taken outside, and every single night he came home smelling different. Different perfume, different cologne, different lies. One night I finally asked, "Are you seeing someone else?" He stared at me like I had insulted him, then he laughed. "You're paranoid." That word stayed in my head for weeks. Paranoid. Funny how cheaters always make honesty sound insane. And slowly I stopped asking questions, because deep down I already knew the answers. The strange thing about betrayal is that your body notices it before your heart accepts it. I started waking up at 2 a.m. every night. Always exactly 2 a.m., and every time I reached across the bed it was empty. At first I thought maybe he was working downstairs, but one night curiosity pulled me out of bed. The house was silent, no office light, no TV. Then I looked outside the front window and saw his car pulling into the driveway. 2:17 a.m. he stepped out smiling at his phone. Actually smiling. A smile I hadn't seen directed at me in years. When he walked inside, he jumped slightly after seeing me awake. "What are you doing up?" he snapped immediately. No apology, no explanation, just anger. "I couldn't sleep," I answered quietly. He narrowed his eyes. "You checking up on me now?" That sentence hit me hard because guilty people always attack first. Then came the part that broke something inside me. He walked closer, sniffed my sweater, and said, "You smell different." I blinked in disbelief. "What?" "Men notice these things," he muttered coldly. "Maybe you should explain where you've been lately." I almost laughed. He had just walked in after midnight, smelling like another woman, and somehow I was defending myself again. That night, while he slept beside me peacefully, I stared at the ceiling and realized something terrifying. He didn't just lie. He needed me confused. A week later, I met the woman accidentally. I wasn't looking for proof anymore. Proof was everywhere, but fate handed it to me anyway. I had stopped by a small cafe downtown after work. Nothing special, just coffee and silence. Then I heard his laugh, my husband's laugh. The real one, warm, relaxed, easy. I froze instantly. He was sitting near the back window, holding hands with a blonde woman in a cream-colored coat. And the way he looked at her, God, that hurt more than the cheating itself, because I recognized that look. He used to look at me like that once. I watched quietly as she touched his face and whispered something that made him grin. Then I heard him say it. "I swear my wife is crazy. She thinks I'm cheating all the time." The woman laughed softly. "Well, are you?" He smirked. "Not emotionally." I felt physically sick. Not emotionally, as if betrayal only counted when feelings were involved. I should have confronted him right there, thrown water in his face, made a scene, but instead I quietly stood up and walked away. Because suddenly I understood something important. Men like him survive on emotional reactions. Anger feeds them, begging flatters them, but silence terrifies them. That night he came home at midnight again, and for the first time I didn't ask where he'd been. He noticed immediately. "Not gonna interrogate me tonight?" he asked cautiously. I smiled faintly. "No," I said calmly. "I'm tired." He stared at me for a long moment, and for the first time in months he looked nervous. The calmness changed everything. Once I stopped reacting, he started unraveling. Suddenly, he became obsessed with my schedule. "Why were you late from work? Who keeps texting you? Why are you smiling?" It was almost funny. The man who vanished nightly now monitored my every move. One evening, I walked past him wearing heels and lipstick. Nothing dramatic, just normal. But his eyes darkened immediately. "Where are you going dressed like that?" "Dinner with friends." "Which friends?" I grabbed my purse slowly. "Why does it matter?" That answer hit him harder than yelling ever could, because for years I had explained everything. Now I gave him nothing, and he hated it. That same night, he left again around 8 p.m., but this time I followed him. Not because I needed confirmation. I just wanted to see how far the lies went. His car stopped outside a luxury apartment building downtown. 10 minutes later she appeared, the blonde woman from the caf. She kissed him before they even entered the building. And suddenly I felt nothing. No tears, no rage, just clarity. It was over, completely over. On the drive home, I expected heartbreak. Instead, I felt strangely peaceful, like my mind had finally stopped fighting reality. When I got home, I opened my closet and began packing quietly. Half my dresses, half my shoes, important documents. I worked slowly, carefully, like someone preparing for freedom, and for the first time in years I slept peacefully. Friday night arrived quietly. I already knew where he was. Probably with her pretending he was trapped in a miserable marriage. Funny thing was he wasn't entirely wrong. The marriage was miserable, but only because he poisoned it slowly day after day. By midnight, half my closet was empty, suitcases packed neatly beside the bed. I sat calmly at the table writing one final note. Not angry, not emotional, just honest. I stopped competing with someone who never chose me. Simple, cold, final. At 12:43 a.m. I heard the front door open, then footsteps, then silence, complete silence. A few seconds later, he stormed into the bedroom. What is this? I didn't answer immediately. He grabbed the note from the table and read it once, then again, and suddenly, the color drained from his face. What does this mean? He asked sharply. I folded another sweater carefully before replying. It means I'm done. His expression shifted instantly. Confusion, panic, defensiveness. You're overreacting. I almost smiled. That word again, overreacting. Funny how betrayal becomes drama when consequences finally arrive. You're really leaving over a misunderstanding? He snapped. I looked directly at him. No, I said softly. I'm leaving because I finally understood. And something about that sentence made him genuinely afraid. He followed me through the bedroom while I packed the last suitcase. This is insane, he kept saying. You're being emotional. You're imagining things. But his voice sounded shaky now, because deep down he knew the performance was ending. You want to know the truth? He suddenly snapped. You pushed me away first. There it was, the blame shift. Classic. I zipped my suitcase calmly. How? You stopped caring about us. I stared at him in disbelief. Stopped caring? I cooked for him daily, supported his career, defended him to my family. Meanwhile, he dated another woman at night. The audacity almost impressed me. Then he stepped closer and lowered his voice. Did you ever think maybe I needed attention too? That sentence changed everything for me, because cheaters always rewrite history. In their version, betrayal becomes self-defense. I picked up my suitcase slowly. You know what's funny? I said quietly. What? You spent so much time accusing me of cheating. I paused deliberately. Because you couldn't imagine loyalty anymore. He froze, actually froze. For the first time all night he had no comeback, no manipulation, no twisted explanation, just silence. And honestly that silence felt better than revenge, but I wasn't finished yet, because there was one thing he still didn't know. I wasn't just leaving him, I already had proof of everything. 3 days before that night I hired a private investigator. Not because I doubted myself, because I knew my husband would lie until the very end, and I was right. The investigator handed me a folder thick enough to destroy a marriage. Photos, hotel receipts, messages, there were even screenshots of him mocking me to his mistress. She'll never leave, one text read. She's too dependent. That one hurt, not because it was cruel but because years ago it might have been true. He had slowly isolated me from everyone, criticized my confidence, questioned my choices, made me feel difficult to love. And the terrifying part, I almost believed him. Until recently. Until I remembered who I was before him. Back in the bedroom, he noticed the folder beside my suitcase. His expression changed immediately. What's that? I slid it toward him calmly. He opened it and his entire body went stiff. Photo after photo, lie after lie. I watched his hands start trembling. This isn't what it looks like, he whispered weakly. That sentence almost made me laugh, because cheaters never realize how ridiculous they sound once evidence exists. You told her I was unstable, I said quietly. He looked up fast. I didn't mean, you told her I'd never leave. His mouth opened, but nothing came out. And suddenly the man who controlled every conversation for years couldn't control this one anymore. What shocked me most wasn't his cheating. It was his fear after losing control. The second he realized I was serious about leaving, he changed completely. Suddenly, he cried, actually cried. I love you, he whispered desperately. The The same man who disappeared nightly now blocked the bedroom door, shaking. "I can fix this." I stared at him calmly. "No," I replied softly. "You can't." His eyes turned cold instantly, and there it was again, the real him. "You'll regret this," he hissed. That switch happened so fast it almost gave me chills. 1 second victim, next second threat. I grabbed my keys quietly, but before leaving I turned back once. "You know the saddest part?" I asked. He stayed silent. "You spent so much energy trying to convince me I was unlovable," I paused, "that you forgot someone else might love me correctly someday." That sentence destroyed him. I saw it happen in real time, because narcissistic people don't just want your love, they want ownership. And ownership was slipping away. "You think someone else will want you?" He laughed bitterly, but the laugh sounded desperate now. I smiled faintly. "I already want myself back," I answered. Then I walked past him, and for the first time in years he didn't stop me. I moved into a small apartment across town, nothing fancy, but it felt peaceful. No accusations, no late-night lies, no emotional exhaustion hanging in the air. The silence healed me slowly. At first he texted nonstop. "I miss you. We can work this out. You're throwing away our marriage." Then came the anger. "You ruined everything. You embarrassed me. You turned people against me." Funny, he cheated publicly, yet somehow I became the villain for leaving quietly. But karma moves patiently. 2 months later, I heard through mutual friends that his mistress left him too. Apparently she discovered he'd been messaging another woman behind her back. I laughed for nearly 5 minutes straight. Some people don't cheat because of love. They cheat because they're empty. And emptiness never stays loyal. One evening, he called me from an unknown number. "I made mistakes," he said quietly. Mistakes. Such a small word for years of manipulation. "I know," I replied calmly. There was a long silence before he whispered, "Do you ever miss me?" I looked around my peaceful apartment, then smiled softly. "No," I answered honestly. And for the first time, I meant it completely. 6 months later, I ran into him unexpectedly at a grocery store. He looked older somehow, tired, uneasy, like life had finally stopped protecting him from consequences. When he saw me, he froze, but I almost didn't recognize myself either, not physically. Emotionally, I looked lighter now. Free, he walked toward me slowly. "You look happy," he admitted quietly. "I am." That answer seemed to hurt him more than anger ever could, because people like him expect scars forever. They never imagine healing. For a moment, we just stood there silently beneath the bright grocery store lights. Then he asked the question I think had haunted him for months. "When did you stop loving me?" I thought carefully before answering. "I didn't stop all at once." He swallowed hard. "It happened slowly every time you made me feel guilty for your own behavior." His eyes dropped immediately. And suddenly I realized something important. I wasn't carrying the pain anymore. He was. I gave a small, polite smile and turned toward my cart. But before walking away, I said one final thing. "You spent years trying to make me feel replaceable." I looked back calmly, then acted shocked when I finally replaced the life you gave me. And this time, I didn't look back again.